Three seats. That's right. There's no reason. Everything goes
Já foram horas? 2 minutos. 2 minutos. Então, espera um minuto, que eu preciso falar. Faz fazer mais um diálogo, não é? Conversa, sim. Espero que, assim, eu preparei as perguntas. Eu parei do jeito que preparada de umas formas. Para os quadros, é assim. A gente para uns 30 minutos antes. Depois eu quero ver não está sempre para análise. Mas se quiser, se a gente tem que ver um não sei. Eu faço o contato.
So, good afternoon. We will start our session. I hope you had a very good lunch and you are prepared for this session. We will continue with artificial intelligence, human wisdom, designing transformation, topic very relevant. Luciana Fabel is the moderator. She's from University of Santa Catarina, and she will present the panel. We will stop the session 15 minutes before the end. We have time for some questions, so try to create some questions.
Thank you very much, Florinda. So, hello everyone. I'm Luciana Fadel, and I come from the Federal University of Santa Catarina, which is in Florianópolis. Beautiful island at south of Brazil, so we invite you to come and visit us. And it's a pleasure to have you all here in this first roundtable. Joining me today are distinguished guests whose work and expertise will greatly enrich our discussion. Dr. Alessandro Margherita is Associate Professor in the Department of Engineering for Innovation at the University of Salento in Italy. Dr. Amy Rosalie is Adjunct Professor at the Cox School of Business at Southern Methodist University of Dallas, Texas. Sorry.
Tá ligado.
Okay, now you can hear me.
Is it on?
Yep.
No?
While we do that, I continue. Dr. Deb Allen is a Regent Professor of Information Science at the University of North Texas. And Jorge Gomes. And Dr. Jorge Gomes is a full professor of Organizational Behavior and Human Resource Management at the Lisbon School of Economics and Management. Together, this exceptional group will help us explore an important and timely issue: the intersection between artificial intelligence and human wisdom. And to begin, I would like to quote Dr. Allen's insightful definition of wisdom: a uniquely human virtue combining compassion, intuition, knowledge, experience, and sound judgment to create a beneficial course of action for individuals, communities, and society. In contrast, we can say AI lacks expert discernment, contextual sensitivity, and moral judgment. So, my first question for you would be, how can the imperatives of human wisdom and ethical leadership be institutionalized to ensure that generative AI serves as a force for human development rather than surveillance, bias, or value substitution? To start with Dr. Hamid, please.
I,
There's one.
no, he turned it off.
Oh,
I don't know.
turn it on. Okay.
This thing. So I sort of start off all of these with, I'm team human. I think we all should be. There's, the AI is a tool. It's not a being, it's not a thing. It's not something that we're comparing ourselves with. It's a tool. It's another tool, just like we have the internet as a tool, it's like we have Google as a tool, the same way that we have VR as a tool, and whatever that comes out as, but human intelligence is human intelligence, and we are looking at an artificial intelligence where humans are the gold standard. So we talk about it as a human, just as we might talk a dog being having human-like qualities. I don't think it will ever be, and if it is, then it's another species. We had written, I was sort of sketching down, we were writing a piece to go directly to this. We're writing a piece talking about information. Information goes through a series of phases for people to understand. And I think AI has to go through the same thing. When you have AI answering a question or responding to something that a leader asked, there's a context that the leader asked. They're going to write it in a certain way, in a certain dynamic, just the same way we ask a question here. But there's always context to that, and there's always intent. We have an intent to help, we have an intent to assess or whatever it happens to be. But then it gets to the leader, and the leader has to interpret it through that lens, those lenses of context and intent. And also the noise that's there. There's noise in our organization, there's noise that we get when we get data back. And I think it's imperative for the leader to then also take that, go through the list and go through the things that information came through, look at it, and then when they deliver that information in this question of assessment or whatever that has to be, they also have to again realize that they have an intent, they have a context, and they have a voice in their piece. None of it's clear and none of it's an answer, but it's simply a tool to help leaders, human leaders, respond to other humans.
Thank you very much. So, Dr. Guns.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation to be with you today. My first time in this conference, not the first time I see some people, been meeting friends here, colleagues. Take another look at the question. Just take a few seconds and look at the questions together. It's a very positive oriented question, isn't it? We're assuming that AI will help us all to create an environment where new development will take place. Now that's quite interesting. When I got the questions from Lucian, I started wondering, yeah, these are all very interesting, positive. We're all assuming that everything will be okay. And we all assuming also that we don't need surveillance, we don't need bias, and we don't need to substitute value. Well, why not? What's wrong with surveillance? What's wrong with surveillance? I mean, I've been to China a couple of times, and they're surveilling, their surveillance mechanisms are forward, right? So what's wrong with surveillance? Don't we all, or some of us, need some surveillance, right? Being controlled, even manipulated. You see, one of the things that can be one good answer to this, and we all work in education, we all work in this beautiful system of education all over the world. Yeah, well, one of the things we need is literacy. Right? We need digital literacy. We need to educate our students, and we need to educate ourselves on how to deal with AI. And this week I took the opportunity to learn a bit more about this wonderful thing that happened in Portugal 2 days ago, 25th November. You know that Portugal had the 28th of April. That was an important revolution, 1974, yeah, just finished the dictatorship regime and started this democracy. It's a very young democracy. But then it took like 1.5 years to consolidate that democracy. And those 18 months were quite, how should I put it, quite, well, they're quite tough for the country, right? And we were on the verge of becoming a dictatorship, a left-wing dictatorship, just like Albania was at the time in 1975. So, but I didn't know that part of history. Although I was born in the 60s, I took the opportunity to learn through AI what was the 2015 event. And after a few hours, I learned more than I could ever imagine with AI. But I had to know the right questions. So education, literacy education, know how to ask things is one of the things that we all have responsibility. Right? We can ask our students, we can demand from our students how to ask the right questions. And then another thing that we have to trigger in our students and in people around us is how do we think critically about what we are getting from data. See, so we are in a very unique, this is a very unique, how do I put it, a very unique type of people. Yeah, but not everyone is willing to critically evaluate what's coming from there. So literacy, educational literacy, and then of course I've been working in leadership. We also need to educate, we need to prepare our future leaders to, again, combine AI with human-centered values. So there are several measures, several opportunities for us to work here. But nevertheless, I will not extend my response because I think political correct answer is yes. Yeah, we can use AI to help organizations and help people as a force of human development. But I still question why can't we use it for surveillance? Why can't we use it for other things? My worry is about combining AI with human intelligence. My big concerns is combining AI with human stupidity, combining AI with human ignorance. Because if we are fighting against that, somebody else in the world will be using AI for not the best purposes. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's I turn it off for so I just resign.
Okay, thank you. So, sticking to the question on institutionalizing, it's very difficult to institutionalize a value. And if I have to think to rather attempt to institutionalize value, the reason that attempt, for instance, in the sustainability field, company are trying to institutionalize ESG concern. The problem is that in most cases, it's a rule, it's a regulation that superimpose the application of a criteria or a standard. So I'm I'm not optimistic in this perspective. The problem is to show manager want to see the value of ethics. So I'm very straight to the point here. So the problem is that the only way to institutionalize ethics and wisdom is to demonstrate that can bring to business outcomes. And so there's a way to move across this is to bring the ethics and the wisdom up in a corporate strategy endeavor and to demonstrate that objective and key results can also be obtained and facilitated through the application of ethics principle, especially in the AI field. So that's the point. In more practical terms, I have to say that, of course, it's very important that you want to institutionalize wisdom. We have to bring a very diverse, culturally diverse, discipline diverse kind of teams and collaboration in the team. It is not just gender again, it's the viewpoint, perspective, sensibility. This is the only way that we can use, the only leverage that we can use to bring, the importance of ethics and balanced decision up in the corporate decision. If you think, for instance, the balance scorecard for decades, we have been using the balance scorecard as a strategic framework to define strategy of organization in terms of learning, in terms of financial, in terms of customer, in terms of growth. So I think to a fifth dimension now, that is the ethics. All the decision and the action of the company has to be balanced and also in this perspective. But again, this brings back to the strategic decision organization, and those strategies are translated into action and then business outcomes.
Yeah, so I feel like we got three very different takes on this question. Most of my work is working directly with businesses to help them take knowledge and change people's behaviors because of it. And so when I read this question, I read it very much as how do we actually help humans develop instead of machines develop with AI? And so when I think of surveillance and I think of bias and I think of these other things, I think, yes, we can take AI from companies and use it for bad, and surveillance isn't necessarily bad. I think we agree bias feels like a bad word, right? And so, or how do companies take what AI can drive, make it human-centric, create wisdom and more opportunity. And I like this question because it can develop people. How are we using AI to develop people instead of AI to develop machines? And companies are so far behind, at least in the United States. More than half of the companies I work with do not currently have an AI policy. There is no transparency in how it's being used. Individuals are using public AI, ChatGPT, and other programs, which means they are putting company data into like a system where that system now owns that data, the company doesn't. So there is so much loss, and the surveillance is happening from the companies. Like the surveillance is now Meta has access to my information instead of the company surveying its own employees. I wish that was our problem. But I think the stupidity already exists. I don't think we're letting it loose. I think it's just we're getting exposed more. And so we also have really bright people like me helping companies make some of these changes. So I love this question. I think it's really important. But companies have to start like just today with saying, yes, AI is here. There's a way to use knowledge to better our employees, better our company, better our bottom line. We're just not doing that yet.
Well, thank you very much. Love the answers. I took a little bit the way I planned. I told you I planned everything just to fun plan. And I will focus for one question. Okay. So one question, and then we move to the next question, okay? From you, if you have any questions. No. Okay, then we move on. Because I have, but it will be for the guys, I have one planned question in 3 more just in case. I have time. So moving for the second question then. And I put here already.
Is it not moving?
No. Nope.
1 second.
Okay.
This
Dr. Gomes defines organizational purpose as the conscious intention to pursue social good beyond profit, generating long-term value for all stakeholders. So my second question would be, how can generative AI be integrated to measure and sustain the authenticity of purpose-driven strategy?
Thank you very much. We've been working with the concept of purpose for the last 2 years. With students of mine and myself and 3 colleagues. That is based on an article that we published last years ago maybe. And since then we're working with an operational definition of corporate purpose, which is based on the concept of individual purpose. And individual purpose, you don't need to read recent works to understand what the individual purpose stands for, because there'll be many works from the 50s and 60s and even 70s. Even Maslow already talked about purpose when he proposed the 6th level. towards the end of his life, he was talking about self-transcendence needs. So individual purpose for us is when you transcend yourself as a human being and you start looking towards other people, right? And when you start working with things that can leverage other human beings' needs. Which means in space, you're working towards people outside your communities, outside your organizations, and in space, you are working towards future generations. Even Jacques Cousteau talked about the rise of future generations. And then when we move to organizational purpose, we're talking about organizations that are able to combine, not replace, profit by whatever sustainability, responsible management, combining profit with those nice words that we are using today. So having that, then how can artificial intelligence be used in order to sustain the authenticity of corporate purpose, or purpose-driven strategies? Well, first, we also need to understand what is authenticity, right? And that's a very difficult, we are still working on that, right? What does it mean to be authentic purpose-driven strategies? Because what somebody understands as authentic, somebody else might, understand it differently. But AI can definitely help defining, designing purpose-driven strategies from top to bottom. First of all, who defines corporate purpose are CEOs and the leaders, right? So, and they can use AI directly to elaborate a proper, authentic, passionate corporate purpose. We talked with, I remember, during our research, we talked with Marco Lavazza from Lavazza Coffee in Italy. And he was very passionate about the corporate purpose of Lavazza Coffees, right? And for him, the purpose of Lavazza is to serve Italy. It was not to serve, shareholders or other stakeholders. Italy was at the center of Lavazza. Now that's a corporate purpose, right? And that's about, it's authentic, passionate, strong, powerful, moving everybody. Now AI can help that. Of course, human judgment here is much more important, but maybe AI can help us, having the nice words, putting it in a proper, powerful way. And the second thing that AI can help us with the authentic corporate purpose, can really create checkpoints, systems whereby you are assessing whether or not employees, so people as the most basic level, are understanding the corporate purpose as authentic. Yeah? If we are measuring, for example, organizational climate or culture, you can also measure the extent to which people are finding their corporate purpose as truly authentic, moving, and passionate. We can do that through AI. Yeah? Thank you very much.
Right. So my sensation is that the AI, more than formulating or disclosing purpose, has the important role of highlighting and disclosing the gaps between what you declare, what you realize in practice. So actually is a weapon in the hands of organization to also restore themselves. And 30 years ago, a book from Sumanta Ghoshal called Individualized Organization claimed that the organization should be managed by 3P, the people, purpose, and process. And the purpose has to inform whatever strategic decision in terms of managing people and operational decision in terms of process we should be undertaking the organization. So AI is a strong capacity in this perspective. So we can use AI really to make checkpoint and to avoid the risk of, again, if we make a parallel with sustainability, we'll talk about greenwashing. In this case, we should talk about AD washing, AI washing. The fact that is we cannot claim that use AI to generate value for stakeholder or shareholder. It's just the marketing stuff. And this happens, especially again, in sustainability and behavior. So it's very much important to say how AI can be the trade union, the liaison between the high level part of the organization, which that directs come from the values of the manager and entrepreneur, which is especially true in family business or companies which have a long, standing tradition. Yeah, of course, I'm really not much attracted by managers that say we'll do it for the population, not for the numbers of yes, I understand, but but it's okay, it's okay, it's okay to listen, yes, do it for the population, for the community, yes. But again, there's a new profession outside there. That's what I'm playing. If I have to build a startup today, I don't make a startup on analytics or data, it's useless. A startup is needed, a company is needed, value proposition is there. In the middle between the AI and the human decision, what's the interface, how can we transfer, how can we translate the high level part of the organization into processing and people related action. So this is the key in the middle, and the middle as a disclosure system, as a consistent check system.
Thank you. Good.
So for this one for me again, really more practically, if I look at this with how businesses do this. So I'll take an example of TurboChef Technologies. It's a company that makes ovens. They sell them to, I don't know if you've heard of Starbucks, places like that, where they warm up your food quickly. They have a purpose. The purpose of this company is to create chef quality food in a pinch. Quick chef quality food. That's what the company does. They are there to make money. Make no mistake.
They do that.
They do make money. They do make
No,
money.
the food as chef.
Oh, chef quality food.
Yeah.
They have chefs that help design the system. They have engineers, obviously, that work on them. But these ingredients, everything that they do kind of from start to finish is to create this chef quality food. So they are living out their purpose. But when I think of the AI analytics, the AI the generative AI that could be used to drive that strategy, they know that's why they exist. For people to be behind that strategy, I thought of this much more on the ground level terms of what can we measure of human behavior to make sure that that purpose is being lived throughout the company. And like AI can help you measure absenteeism, and it can alert managers to here's who's not been showing up lately. Are they still connected to our strategy? Are they still connected to our greater purpose? Here's how much fewer innovations the engineering team is seeing. What's going on with the engineering team? Are they still tied to our purpose? So I think of this in much more like analytical terms of what's the actual data that AI can provide to leaders to say, are these folks still invested, motivated, working hard? We call it in the world of engagement, discretionary effort. Everybody does enough to not lose their job. How do you get people to do more so that they really are driving towards that purpose of the company? And so measuring that discretionary effort shows up in some of those types of analytics that AI can help feed and communicate up to managers.
So I'll go back to AI as a tool. So I'm going to read a parable that's an older parable, but I want you to think about this. As a bricklayer, a brick has no purpose. It's a tool. Whether a hammer has a purpose, inherently it's the person using it. I can use a hammer for a lot of things. Or a level, however you want to think of it about this. But the fires of 1666 in London drove architect, one of the greatest architects at that time, Christopher Wren, to walk around London. And here's the parable, and I'll try to read it as written. One day in 1671, Christopher Wren observed three bricklayers on a scaffold, one crouched, one half standing, and one standing tall, working very hard and fast. To the first bricklayer, Christopher Wren asked the question, "What do you do?" The bricklayer replied, "I'm a bricklayer. I'm working hard laying bricks to feed my family." The second bricklayer, as we went to him, said, "I'm a builder. I'm building a wall." The third bricklayer, the most productive of the three, and the future leader of the group, when asked the question, "What are you doing?" replied with a gleam in his eye, "I'm a cathedral builder. I'm building a great cathedral to the Almighty. The purpose of this is not driven by the brick. It's not driven by the tool. It's not driven by the wheelbarrow. Or whatever the tool of the trade is. The tool of our trade in this room at the moment is AI. But you didn't hear in the responses, AI will create that purpose-driven piece. The purpose-driven piece is created by leaders, whether the leader be a formal or informal leader.
Right, and I could add the book of Antonio Damasio, which he looks for, oh, sorry. We are talking. The purpose-driven organization is what Damasio described in his book. When the leaders, especially at this from 1850 to 1950 in Italy, he described 10 enterprises that had this kind of a leader that had a dream, something that really sustained a great organization from one man leading ever. That we can still see here sometimes, but it's more like, I mean, I couldn't say one, I think, that I think is like purpose driven. You probably know many, don't you? Or not? No.
I think you remember that
The
one.
micro, please.
Oh, not from Damasio, but when you wrote your paper, which organizations that are.
That it was a theory.
Okay.
That was a conceptual. But later on, we did the interviews, and that's when we interviewed Mark Ladas amongst other people. And we realized that those authentic purposes will deepen. It takes time. It's not, but they have people.
Yes,
People with great purposes. Not machines. No, so far. So far. But there are people, and then implementing the purpose is a totally different thing. You know, so one thing is elaborating the purpose, a totally different thing is how to communicate it, how to make sure people follow it. You also look at leaders, but then you look at legal level leaders to implement. First, they have to explain the purpose. Of course, liberated at the top level, then they have to implement it. Those are the key people to implement a purpose-driven strategy. So there are lots of issues here, and we still won't have answers to, understand how it unfolds in corporations.
but you already did something that I think is amazing. Going back to the first question, the definition of wisdom from Jack, I thought that was great because I couldn't see myself or understanding what wisdom is from this definition, and also your definition of purpose. I thought it was great. So please read their papers. We love it. And I was just going back, if you still have some time, the second question. Going back to the first question, we are talking about the same thing so far, isn't it? I mean, we need people who knows which wisdom is and defined by wisdom and by purpose in our organization. So the problem is always human problems, not really the two, isn't it? Please, it might.
We were discussing this a little bit at lunch. Doing quick brief research on leadership. And if you read leadership theory, I have an example, we won't do it for brevity here. The words wisdom and wise do not appear in leadership theory. That is not a concept that we talk about in leadership theory at all. If you do a search of leadership, you will not find wise or wisdom taught in leadership. We don't do it because we really don't know what it is. Those people, if you think of wise people in your life, it's not your organizational leader. Why? Why is this happening? That's the next 10 years. But I think we have a lot of good direction on that. But the wisdom is a uniquely human thing. You need that wisdom and leadership that we don't have it written about in any of our pieces, much less implemented.
And the other thing, we were talking about, knowledge, we were talking about wisdom, and we were talking about, this wonderful, because this is what we're talking about here, is how can we distinguish ourselves from AI? It's not the value that AI can add in the future, it's the value that we can add in the future, not AI. And one of the things where, so human beings create purposes, human beings created AI. We are wonderful at improvising. When you guys back there, you can't see that machine that projected there is upside down. It's an absolute wonderful machine. You're seeing there, it's upside down. I don't know, who did that, but it's okay, we're seeing it okay, but the machine is upside down. I don't know why, why isn't it properly, I don't know why. So the Portuguese and the Brazilians, and other Latin American, Italians too, we are great at improvising. We even have a word which it's very difficult to translate into English.
We have our own words.
Yeah, exactly. There's a wonderful book about words that exist in some cultures and do not exist in any other culture. And then translating those words are crazy. Yeah, every Portuguese in this room and Brazilian, right? Anybody from Africa will also have. You will know exactly what Zerascanso means. Zerascanso is more than improvisation. You got beyond improvisation. Zerascanso means you're willing to help somebody. You're willing to help somebody to sort out the problem. There's a problem. Yeah, there's a big problem. Don't think about the problem. Let's think about the solution. And I'm there to help you. So Zerascanso is more than the act of changing and innovating and doing things. It's about I'm willing to help you to overcome the problem. Yeah, you guys in Brazil are doing it all the time. I mean, the things wouldn't work if you were not doing it, right? We are used to a very disorganized society, right? I mean, somebody was here, try to, it doesn't work. Let's put it upside down. And then it works. You see, I'm not sure if an AI will be able to do it. Yeah, but definitely we'll be able to do other things. And then we need to, it's not about finding out what AI can do for us. Maybe it's about finding out what we can do for
Thank you very much. So we can talk now about collective intelligence that unites computational power with human judgment. Can you teach for me? And human judgment as sustained by Dr. and Dr. Yet, generative AI often amplifies volatility and uncertainty, creating the wicked learning environments. So my third question would be, which leadership competencies and social-emotional skills are essential for guiding human AI collaborative intelligence through wicked environments?
I think most of my professional life, we've only been in wicked environments, and with the generative AI and the revolution we're seeing now,
Sorry.
it's okay. Things are changing much more quickly than they ever have. I was in some of the sessions this morning, hearing papers on, tacit knowledge and implicit knowledge and how do we capture these things and how do we use them to feed them into AI, and so we can continue to learn from what is happening that isn't so easily written. And I think one of the especially human skills, and we talk about this in the chapter with empathy and contextual reasoning and our ability to have lived experience, and that that type of experience versus let me type in, I went to the gym, then I went here, then I did this, doesn't exactly capture how hard it was for me to wake up this morning and how strained my muscles might feel when I'm trying to study or give a talk or work and manage a team. And so what AI is missing is obviously some of that context, some of that implicit and tacit knowledge. And when I think about those, especially human skills, when I think of collaborative intelligence and how humans can be used to help drive AI, I think about, we can tell when someone's triggered, right? That you're having a conversation with somebody, you say something that's upsetting, you can tell that when they're upset. You can tell when somebody, I mean, this guy cannot stand that this thing's upside down, right? And like now it's hard not to look at. AI doesn't accept any of those feelings or any of that emotion or any of that, like, we have questions. AI doesn't have questions. It moves on. If there's no kind of previous history to feed me the new information, I just say, yeah, and sometimes projectors are upside down. That is the piece of information, and then I move on down the road. And so what I think that, it's hard to say like any one competency that we bring to the table, but I think emotional intelligence, a lot of companies right now are focusing more on emotional intelligence than they have before, because the data and the information is so readily available. Why people aren't using it is not readily available. And so having to dig more into the emotions and the things that drive behavior that are innately human is much more important now to companies to feed. How do they make changes? How do they beat out the competition? How do they do better than the other company, or then how do they meet those stakeholders' demands that they're trying to get to? That becomes so much more critical than just, well, how do we innovate this problem? How do we fix this issue that's going on? It's like, what, we can do some quick data. We can analyze information so much more quickly than we did before because we use AI to do that. And we think about this collective intelligence. We think about, what are we trying to actually get people to change their behavior in? Because at the end of the day, somebody does have to buy the widget.
So this is one that we could spend an hour and a half on for me. This is really a cool one. We developed a model of collective wisdom that looks at wicked and kind. And if you don't know wicked and kind, David Epstein writes a wicked and kind learning environments that works the same way here. Humans and AI do very well in kind environments, rules-driven environments. Neither one of us do well in wicked environments, and we can use all the help we can get. AI does some really good things that humans don't. Sleep, fix the upside down. That's how we do it. However, they write about what are the critical skills in the workforce, and there are still 4 critical skills that will always remain in the workforce: critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. And both humans and AI do really well in kind environments for any of these. When we get into critical thinking skills, when we get into wicked environments, we need the help of AI, the large data process, but also the discernment of data. We need both humans and AI to be able to do that well. I think this is when we talk about critical skills, there's a lot that can be done on both of these that will remain always in the workforce. And those are 4. I think going back to the larger question of what it takes in an organization, we wrote about what collective wisdom is, and collective wisdom has 5 pieces. Community, the community of an organization, for you to know that you have a reason for going to work and that they're going to have you there, that you have belonging and you're going to be protected. That's needed for us to be able to grow. You have to have shared vision. You have to have a leader that has vision and a leader that can share that with others. There has to be a shared vision. If there's not a shared vision, we fail at moving forward. You need health. If I'm not healthy, I can't perform. We need healthy organizations, both physically and mentally. We have to have learning, but we also have to have unlearning. We have to throw out the maps right now. None of our maps work anymore. We don't know what's sitting at an organization. One of the techs who's probably the very, very tip top of the leading edge of technology said, I don't know what AI is going to look like in 6 months. Well, that's just like a moon frontier or a Mars frontier. We don't know what's over the horizon. Throw it out, unlearn it, use what you can, but both learning and unlearning are going to be critical. And I think the final one is growth and evolution. We have to have a willingness to grow. We have to have a willingness to fail. If one way doesn't work, it's okay, go back, look at it again, try to go a different way. So I think all these things become critical as we move forward in this.
Yeah, thank you. I'd just like to add one component to what you guys said. And something that has been in my mind in the last 5-6 years, I've been wondering about space and time dimensions of the human being. I'll give you 2 examples before. 2 examples of the space dimension. We are here trying to understand how AI will fit within you. You see, it's only one component that will shape our future. And before at lunch, I was having a conversation with Christina and yeah, I mean, where is it? There. And then we were talking about the climate loss, right? Or climate change, or whatever you want to call it, right? And the climate is changing. AI is changing this stuff. Trust me. Climate change will be much more important than anything else, right? Maybe the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. So considering these other changes is important. Another one, Portugal is facing a demographic collapse. Portugal has one of the lowest GDP ratios of all the OECD countries. You know, simply put, we are not making enough babies. In 2060, according to our National Statistics Institute, it will be 6 million. Right now we're 10. It will be 6. Which means Portuguese are to become extinct. Now, the thing about making Portuguese is that we have to make them big. We can't import Portuguese people. So sometimes I tell my students in classes something that you can't say in American universities. Don't come to my classes, go home and make games.
They won't report it for that.
Yeah, you see that. Because that's the only one. Right? So you see, seeing different factors, it's a sign of systems thinking. And another sign is, you know, let's add time. 300 years ago, we were witnessing the first industrial revolution. Right? We moved from manual manufacturing to mass production. I suspect an audience like you, panel like us, a chairman or chairwoman like you, addressing the same issues, worried about where is this taking us? In, you know, around 1710, 1715, 1750. And then 200 years later, the second industrial revolution, then we moved, and we started stopped using, the fuel was different, right? So somebody else was discussing, right? And when the computers and computer science started like 50 years ago, another part is like through markets, which means in 50 years time, we will be discussing AI, maybe something different, right? Right, so systems thinking, the capacity to see patterns between interdependent variables and how they affect what's going on now, how we will shape change, especially how readers should be able to understand the complex realities with systems, VUCA system, whatever you want to call it, the environment. There are several components. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So collective intelligence is actually one of the nicest inventions of the last 50 years. So, it has not a computer science foundation, it has a sociological foundation, it's important to say, to take to Pierre Levy. And it has been applied during my time at MIT. I had the privilege to work with Tom Malone, Proust, and Mark Klein. And I learned that in order to talk about collective intelligence, you need to define a genome of collective intelligence. And in this genome, crucial ingredients are the motivation, why people should collaborate, or why an agent should collaborate. In this case, it's not a high agent. And the second point is the existence of a wicked problem. We say a wicked problem is a problem which has not predefined solution. Climate change has been mentioned, or we can say social unrest, geopolitical tension, wars, terrorism. We're trying to apply collective intelligence into emergency management, for instance. So in all this case, there's a wicked problem. The problem is that many business leaders, company leaders, politicians have not the capacity to face with complex problems. At most, they are able to face complicated problems, but the complicated problem is the Rubik Cube. You can find a solution. There are many algorithms to find a Rubik Cube. A complex problem is not complicated, it's more complicated. So one key leadership skill that we miss today is sense making in complex situation, which brings back to the problem of developing systems thinking. That many managers have no at all capacity of systems thinking and dealing with complex, wicked situation because they have a personality view of the reality. They don't have systems view. That's very much important, the way in which you have to bring them. And you say AI can reduce the gap. No, AI increases the gap because you can see immediately when a document, when an idea, when a design is generated by a person who has not a system view using AI, it's worse than ever. Okay, so AI can amplify this gap more than reducing the gap.
Thank you very much.
But,
Yes. But you can talk more if you know. Open for the question? No. I still have more questions. So, let me change the outcome first. Let's see, this is a bit problem. We have- Yeah, but when you learn how to put the things, yes, upside down.
Sorry.
No problem. The integration of generative AI requires a cultural transformation and a commitment to people-centered organizations, argued by Dr. Margarita, where well-being and employee voice are central. My fourth question is, beyond technology, what structural and cultural changes are necessary for organizations to cultivate collective wisdom and shared purpose through generative AI?
Again, technologies, yeah. Technology is 20%, as in this case, and culture is 80%. And unfortunately, most companies still don't have this people attitude. In most companies, they still talk of workforce or personnel management or human resource management. Again, is old-fashioned style. We need to talk to people today with individual aspiration, problems, issues, concerns. So the other thing is to demonstrate that we can really develop an individualized, a people-based approach to human resource analytics. It's one of the research what I'm trying to conduct and understand the fact that we need to build a genome of human resources in order to fine-tune algorithms based on specific individual characteristics and peculiarities. Okay, to demonstrate that the human resource can really bring to a better onboarding or a better employee experience, and how can all the life cycle of employee management across the organization can be enhanced using HR analytics. So it's not just a productivity problem. It's, for instance, using HR, human resource analytics, for instance, to early warning for burnout or attrition analysis. Generally speaking, to create a condition for a nicer, more rewarding, more satisfying employee experience. So, but again, this brings back to the importance that manager allocate on this, on the fact that the humans and resources are not just assets. That's the problem. So that's why we need more technology, free space, AI free space in which people can nurture their creativity, personality. I like very much a book from a scholar from Italy, which is Luca Solari, one of the most important scholars in organizational management in Italy, wrote a book called Freedom Management. They say the organizations which are more successful are those which are able to generate freedom in people, freedom to act, freedom to think. I know it's difficult. There are cultural barriers in that, but this is the only solution which I envision today.
So, sorry, I will continue in a minute, just for you to continue to talk about this. So we need Sorry. We will learn together. Just thinking when you were talking about this, so it's very important to have more human place.
Yeah.
To lead, so AI actually is provoking us to think more humanly about all aspects of how are we leading. Is it true or something that provokes us to that, or you know? Sorry, you will answer in a minute.
In my experience, no necessarily. But again, because but I have a business background, so it depends on the people you're talking about. If for people who have a computer science background, will see things differently. I have a business background in organizational kind of specialization, so I tend to see that the tools comes after, technology comes after. So it's very much important that we design an organization based on people. And our AI can allow us to create better environment. Yes, now, of course, because again, AI has the capacity to create a system view that for humankind in some cases is difficult, but that's the most important capacity of AI. Connecting distributed information, create a taxonomy, ontology of a complex domain. And this is an important tool for managing what the capacity and the culture to interpret those systems and to generate more organizations which are more agile, more lean, more based on social relation and support. I don't know if I answered, but I mean, it's very complex. It's a weaker question.
Sorry.
So I need the collective intelligence.
Ale, do you want to go first? I think he's eager to answer, please.
Now I forgot where I was going with it.
Oh, come on.
But I'll go back to this. AI was the worst thing that could happen to us. At the worst time. Jay spoke this morning of expert systems all the way through AI now, but it hit us in 2022-ish, depending on who you are. And it's messed up everything that we were talking about, organizational development and organizational culture. You can put this new thing in there, and it added a new mixture in the formula that has nothing to do with culture. It's a productivity tool. It's a tool that can help us do analysis that we couldn't do. As a tool, it's a phenomenal tool. It's not a cultural tool. It messed up everything that we were talking about. Everything that I started back in 19-ish, 2019, 2018 with wisdom, AI was not part of it. It came in at the time and messed up the conversation. So we're talking about an issue of organizational culture and vision and purpose. With this context of this, there'll be a Portuguese word, a spice added in that just isn't right. And I think you have to take that spice out and analyze it for what it is. It will add something in certain times, but sometimes you have to simply ignore it. It messes up the conversation. And when we're talking about knowledge management is about people and communication and connection and the resiliency and the adaptability that we have in organizations. Not in the AI tool. It can make me faster. It can make me more productive. It allows me to do analysis that I wasn't capable of 6 months ago, much less a year ago or 3 years ago. But it's only a certain spice. And when we talk about collective wisdom or we talk about shared purpose, AI really doesn't have anything to do with it. Why are we talking about AI now? Because it hit all of us. AI hit our knowledge workforce, and it hit it hard. But what we were doing prior to 2022 versus now is no different, except we have an added tool that's a powerful tool that can be used very well or very badly, just as a spice can. A little bit goes a long ways. A little bit in the right recipe, a little bit in the right location. phenomenal. It'll add that pop. Too much of it, or when it's the main ingredient, it's no good and it ruins everything and it ruins all of our conversations that we talk about with OD and organizational culture. It's a tool that's been around for a long time. In the world of knowledge management, we've talked about it for a long time. It just all of a sudden became magical because the technology moved so far.
I'm gonna take an example of that, where I've seen that in action is companies that put in place innovation sessions, and so I work with groups of engineers that do these innovation sessions, or they are also sometimes called ideation or brainstorming, where we are trying to create a new product or create a technological advance on a product. And where we use AI well in these situations is we kind of agree on the ground rules. AI can be one member of this meeting, but the other 7 engineers in the room are equal partners to the one. It is not AI with 7 people being half and AI being half. It is AI is 1/8 of the voice in the room. And so there will be a, let's put this question to AI. So 7 people are independently designing, working on, drawing out their own answers. While we put the prompt in AI, we're waiting and we're revealing all 8 answers at the same time. So I feel like there's companies that have adopted ways to say, here is how we're going to use AI. It doesn't replace us, but we're gonna let it feed ideas and let it use kind of the collective that comes outside of the room, but the wisdom comes when we also bring in our human experience with this company, with this product, with what we're trying to do. And so I think there's ways that shared purpose or that collective wisdom happens really well when companies are intentional. And I've equally seen it fail. So the other side of that example is the company you're in and you don't set those ground rules. And you say, okay, let's come up with how should we solve this problem? And you've got half the room saying, I'll just put an AI. Chad said we should do this. So should we just do that and let's move on? And they truly believe in shortcutting knowledge, shortcutting their own wisdom, shortcutting their own experience. They're getting a better solution by relying on AI. And I think that's where we go down a negative road and a negative path that doesn't take into account that collective wisdom that we bring to the table. And sometimes what can go even more negative on that organizational culture side is that those same people that put it in ChatGPT don't listen to the other voices in the room that say, well, I had an idea. No, Chat already told us. Chat's smarter than you. And that's where we really see things fail, really see things go in the wrong direction. And I want to just one other comment on this question of shared purpose. Glenn Bull is one of the CEOs and founders that we talked to for this chapter. And speaking on collective wisdom, he runs a company out of New Zealand called Skillytics. It's a software learning tool that uses generative AI that learns from the user. So as they do both healthcare and they do aviation. So let's talk about like knee surgery. As somebody is learning on the AI tool how to perform this very specific surgery, the AI is learning how this person thinks it's done and is creating new tests and new quizzes for them based on what they're not able to do well. So it's helping them repeat better patterns and make the right decisions. Really cool company, super cool guy, love his accent. But what's interesting about it is he believes the shared purpose should be all the owners and founders creating generative AI programs and systems. That we all have to agree that we can't have a machine replace the surgeon or the chief surgery person that watches over what is happening here. He believes that human beings have purpose, and without jobs, if AI replaces everyone, society will fail. Even if AI can do the jobs as well as us. And so what I love that he talks about, and we talk about a chapter which I'm sure you've all annotated and read multiple times. I know you loved it, right? But what he talks about is not just the shared purpose within a company, but a shared purpose of what are we all doing with this tool? Can we all agree that we are not going to let AI take over all jobs in the United States? And when Jay talked about that billboard this morning, I was also in New York. I also saw that same billboard. And it's scary. It was scary to see. And there are definitely founders and CEOs out there that say that is not the future. We cannot make the future that people don't have jobs. We still have to find purpose, and we still have to believe in this idea of collective wisdom, which will take us much further than machines will.
Okay, before I open questions for the
The
audience.
microphone,
Yes. Right. Yeah, sorry. Oh, later on. I'll give it to you.
I'd like to challenge that. Harari did an interview with 2 years ago to The Economist, I think. He was being interviewed with Solomon. The time Solomon was the CEO of artificial intelligence for Microsoft. And Harari, he's famous author, and he said, what I really worry about is this thing called technological singularity. The moment where AI will take over, right? Be smarter than us, be faster than us, and taking decisions in all walks of life. Now, walk with me for a second. Just delete 4 organizations from that sentence, that question. 4 organizations. Forget that part. Beyond technology, what spiritual and cultural changes are necessary to cultivate collective wisdom and shared purpose through generative data? I kind of envisage a world where AI will take over, and then will do all the work for us. Then we'll finally be free. We'll be free. We won't work anymore. You still need money. Because the assumption between having money and consuming, that needs to be there. Otherwise, the economy will fall. It collapse. But the assumption between I need to work to get money, maybe that assumption, you don't need it anymore. That's not my problem. Some economists will have to solve that problem. Because I still need money. Right? And then the big problem will arise. What purpose will have individuals in their 30s and in their 40s if they're not working anymore? Because work is quite a central part of our lives. Then that's a big thought. How can we find a purpose when we are 30 and we are not doing anything from our perspective? Now, I think we can be really happy when we don't get to work and we still have money to spend, right? And travel and things like that. And then we can do whatever we want to do in life. Is that an utopia? Is that possible? It's the future. If that's the future, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yes. Kingsley might actually be in agreement on some of it. It wasn't about the money. It was about the value.
No.
So why would you go to college? Why, if you never have to work, what is the purpose? So it was not about money. It was about what do human beings turn into if there's no reason to go to school? Like why learn to read? What do we need to know? And when does it, great, we travel every day for our whole lives, starting at age 5, 0, 10. And so that was where he came to share purpose, was not about the money, so which I love. I love the economists figure that out. That's a different conference. But I love this. The question is, what value do we bring when and as AI starts to replace this jobs?
So singularity of purpose or singularity layout came to mind. By the way, I figured out my problem with that, and I'm okay with it now. The machine could only work upside down, is that a problem? It could only work in an upside down image, so they not that way. So I'm Dr. Kyle Peck, one of my supervisors at Penn State, in 1992 or 3, sat before 200 teachers and said, computers will replace teachers. 1993. 1993.
1942 was US Army with video.
Yes,
They
so,
that this will replace human teaching.
and the scribes, when the Gutenberg press, the scribes said the printing press will replace us. When Kyle Peck said that, you had a room of 200 teachers sitting in silence. Because there was a real possibility at that time that computers would replace teachers. And we have articles from the 60s and 70s saying computers are coming for teachers. And Kyle let the pause continue. And he said, maybe I used the wrong word. He said technology, computers in this case, will reposition teachers. AI will not replace humans. AI will reposition what we do in our organizations. My prediction is 20 years from now, as we're still here talking about this stuff, they will say, hey, back in 2025, we were saying AI will replace people. And what it did was reposition them and we're still here. I predict in 20 years, then yes, I know my math doesn't work in 93 years, but in 20 years and 3 decades, whatever that happens to be, we'll be in the same position. Speaking of how AI is a general tool in our lives, just like we have AI on all of our phones. Not a singularity, and if it happens, we go on with that. It becomes a new species and we start interviewing in that way.
What exciting times, isn't it? You had a talk for us, didn't you? I didn't forget.
So here's something that I Amy looked at you and made sure that we did this. We are born in a perfect time in history to contemplate the differences between humans and technology to better both organizations and society. What a cool time we're in to really look at what the differences are right now. It's a time of resilience, it's a time of adaptability, but what a cool time to live in.
I think so. I hope you agree with me. I mean, it's very exciting times. Although it's quite, I know, I was more positive before this time. Exciting. So I just like thinking, oh my God. Because, I mean, what I talked before is that AI provoked us to look more close to what humans are and how can we get better as humans. So the definitions, for example, of wisdom and purpose give us a way to look to our students and try information of them to become more wise and maybe have a clear purpose in life. Isn't it? Okay, so now it's time for open for questions. Sorry, not working. So, they have upside down, put upside down. So I will open for questions. I want. Okay.
Only one question.
And same.
Yes.
No, I really enjoyed
You know
this.
which one.
The microphone.
Microphone.
Now you have the same question.
NJK Mark Shoppers. That's a US, US, but. Anyway, thanks so much for the comments. I was just thinking about, as professors, since many of us are in academia. The question is, what do we tell our college students who are graduating? And there have been many essays and studies showing that they're really having difficulties getting jobs because of AI. They're taking away a lot of the entry-level jobs, and they're worried. And my son, actually, one of our sons attended an AI law conference last week in New York. He's even worried about using AI for, not that he did so much document reviews and transactional law, but the graphic artists are concerned. So the question is, how do we advise our students in this age of AI? And any thoughts that you all have?
I'll start.
I knew you would.
I would first say that the answer is the same as it's always been. Job markets change. Administrative assistants were replaced with computers. When I started training administrative assistants, they locked up the computer. Because their typing skills were faster than what the computer could handle. They were typing at 100, 105 words per minute. And the computer could not keep up, it locked it up. And they said, well, this technology is too bad, it didn't work for me, I'm better than that. And then they realized what the technology was and went, oh no, it's going to take my job. Every generation, and I'll tell my students, I'm preparing you for jobs that don't exist yet. We're preparing students for jobs that don't exist yet. We have no idea what the job market is going to be in 4 years preparing freshmen. We can prepare them to critically think, to communicate, to do all those skills, all those job skills that we've always done, and preparing them for what this new technology might be. And I'm preparing them to say, it's a tool, it's not a person. Work with the people, work with the belonging, work with what the organization does. I think those things, there's no doubt. The law fields, the knowledge fields, and we were discussing this. I think the reason that it's hitting us so hard is most technology comes from the bottom up, from the farms, the American plow, all the way through the tractors. This one's coming from the top down. It's hitting knowledge workers first. This is a unique technology that it's hit the top of our workforce, the knowledge workers, prior to hitting the iron workers that I work with all the time. That's a wicked environment. Robots don't do that well. You need hard people doing hard work there. But it's not hitting them. They're worried about it, but it's not hitting them. It's hitting everybody here because of the work that we do. And digitized knowledge is easy for AI to work with. So I would say I am preparing you right now for a job that doesn't exist. Whether that's 6 months from now. You're graduating, I don't know the jobs. I have a son changing jobs right now. And I would say we're preparing you for a job that we don't know that exists. But I'm gonna prepare you with workforce skills. Those 4 that I mentioned, that's what we're doing for you. And I would repeat that in the 90s, 2000, 2020, and whenever that happens to be after that.
Do they know how to swim? The kids? Do they know how to swim?
Do they know how to swim?
How to swim?
Yeah. Ask them to ask ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever. How can I learn how to swim? They deliver I don't know how many pages, right? And after reading all that, will they be able to learn how to swim? Swimming, riding a bike? You really have to go and do it, right? That kind of knowledge that can only acquire through going through practice. So those knowledge and learnings, we can always do not do AI. AI can't help them. Analytical theory, you have to do it. And many other complex human attributes like trust. How to learn trust from AI, or the sense of belonging, or whatever. So those profound human attributes, you need to go through that. My mom, she's 85, and she started using AI 2 or 3 weeks ago. But it's really interesting, to see an old woman, 85, right, using AI. And she's really funny. She said, they responded to this, as if there's somebody, right, replying to her personally, right, customized. And she believes, I don't want to destroy that beautiful image she has of AI. I think it's a beautiful. The way she interacts is slightly different from me. So I taught her how to use AI, but then she has this unique knowledge accumulated through the last 85 years. So every time she asks something, she knows the prompts. And if she's not happy with the reply, I don't think they are right. Right? And then she does other prompts. I don't know how she's doing it. She's learning fast, which is brilliant. So that's something we do, right? So, and then she's teaching me what kind of words I have to use. About the 25th of November, I told you about And it's amazing, we do that all the time, we collaborate, we join, we're joining resources, we join efforts. But the question was really interesting, what can we do and advise our students from the technological point of view, what can our students advise us, right? I mean, because I don't know how to use AI properly, I think. My students have all sorts of AI software, and I only use 3 in my laptop, and we combine it, and I have not really a good answer for that. I mean, it's just difficult for them.
Yeah, just that. Yeah, Jay has touched a very critical point. The point is, what is the level of preparation of the university system, which is not prepared? I mean, that the artificial intelligence can really speed up the time to knowledge, not the time to learning, then time to competency, which is another stuff. So the problem is that we have a fast car, but we have no good streets to drive on. And so the problem is, yeah, unprepared teacher could be. Institution which is not at the level could be. The fact that is those education leaders have to change. So in order to generate a class in which some dynamics are fast and accurate, we need to move from simple teaching to a new paradigm, which is reaching, from teaching to reaching. So we have to help students to reach an objective. But the only way to do this in very fast term is to use role playing and simulation. So the class has to become a theater. That's my view of the class. The class is a theater. The class is you really know it's really the context in which people can experiment very likely situation and interact with other peers and generate a new capacity, especially in the social and soft skills. So university has more the role to develop soft skills in the next 30 years, more than hard skills. The hard skills is built on the market. The hard skills are different companies. Yeah, there's no need to work too much on hard and technical stuff. Let's work more on human and social stuff and relational stuff, empathy, situational awareness, emotional intelligence, systems thinking, and these are crucial. Otherwise, artificial intelligence is a useless tool.
Shouldn't that be started being?
Yeah, so start looking, of course, from the primary school. I always suggested to my person who knows in the school of direct schools that also in the primary school we should bring project management. Yeah, project management into the primary school. But also, mind mapping. How many teachers help students to build mind mapping tools? That's crucial for students in order to system view the big picture, as we say. That's crucial.
Okay, thank you. Maybe you want to put that.
No.
It's important that you say.
Hey, I do.
I put it on.
Just to thank you very, very much. It was a wonderful pen of highlights. I hope you had to. And I would like to ask you to remain here as Lorinda has something special for us now.
Okay, we will continue with our coffee break, but before the coffee break, we want to have a group photo. Tomorrow we will have another group photo, but now with this group, we will try to have a group photo. And before this, I have a small gift. I continue with the first knowledge without AI, but this is a very social opportunity. The process of production of this wine can remember us the good time for socialization, for connections, for human capabilities. So it is for your nights and days. Thank you.
Bring it now.
Pode que você vai. O quê? A foto agora?
All the,
Everybody.
all the participants.